Tony Frost recovers. He's getting over near the wall down there, but he'll go across the line for an 8.500. 8.500 at 177.
And Andrew's there, not even making the 60-foot, deciding to stop the bike and jumping off. Both machines not happy in the 60-foot, and unfortunately that has definitely marred the ET at the other end for Tony Frost.
It's interesting talking to these guys, and I was talking to one pro bike racer who will remain unnamed because he was sharing some secrets with me, some tuning secrets, and he said, you would not believe how much timing we have to pull out of these bikes right at the hit of the throttle, so that the timing's in them for the launch, and then to get them through that patch from about 15, 20 feet out off the start line through to about 100, 120 feet. They've got to pull so much timing out of them. But the problem is, if you pull too much timing out of them, they just bog down. And you could hear the engines there. They leave, and then they go brrr, and the tyre bogs, drags the engine down, and the run's basically lost anyway. And it's all because they're spinning the tyre so hard if they don't pull the timing out, but if they pull too much out, then it bogs the tyre. It is a real balancing act to try and get these things off the start line. Not easy in any way, shape or form.
No, definitely not. And I mean, for the amount of horsepower these things would be making, the tyre on the back is not a very big tyre. You know, I think, I dare say the clutch diameter is probably not that big either. So, you know, you've got to be very careful not to overload that either.
It's a tricky one.
Yeah.
It's very, because the last thing you want to do is fry a clutch in one of these, because that's not a cheap exercise as well.
And I mean, further to that, I dare say that, you know, the capacity is not particularly large either, so there is probably a fairly narrow power band in which they would be making peak horsepower as well.
Absolutely. They're very finely tuned machines. You know, very similar to Pro Stock, what we see in Pro Stock, but just on two wheels. And, you know, you can throw in the added curveball for some races running EFI as opposed to your conventional carburetor setups. There's just so much adjustment, so much changeability and tunability in these motorcycles. Next up, it will be Locky Island, who is a former Australian champion on the Johnny's Hog Shop. Vance and Hines sponsored motorcycle is going to take on Scott White.
Yeah, there's a name synonymous with Pro Stock motorcycles and Vance and Hines. They were dominating in for a long time over in the US.
Yes, and to a certain extent still are. You know, they're still running a two-bike team on Suzuki's now, and yeah, making life very, very difficult for the rest of the pro bike competitors over there. Looks like a solo pass this time around. Unfortunately, Scott White not able to get the bike in the beams. Locky Island, that's a very nice run for him. It's one of the better runs I've seen for him over the last couple of events. 7.81. Oh, sparks at the top end of the racetrack. All we can see is sparks from where we're sitting here, and we are just waiting on confirmation at the top end of the racetrack as to what's happened. It looks like Locky Island may have gone down.
Yep.
And we're just waiting to hear at the top end. That's not what we want to hear. 7.81 was one of the better runs that we've seen for a while, but obviously we're going to let the fire crews and safety crews and ambulances do what they need to do at the top end of the racetrack. Looks like he has definitely come off the bike, but at this point, we don't know what's caused it, and we don't know anything more than just seeing a shower of sparks from the top end of the racetrack. So just waiting before we do speculate on anything there. It's a shame because 781, 179 miles per hour, it's showing good horsepower, it's showing good speed, but yeah, 781 for Locky Island.
Yeah, the run itself looked really clean, Rusty. It was just, yeah, on the transition from acceleration to de-acceleration, I'd say.
Yeah, it's a very challenging one with these motorcycles. They're not easy bikes to ride. Although, to a certain extent, especially when you compare them to a top fuel motorcycle, they probably look a little more achievable to the average person if you're looking from the outside in.
Yeah.
But these bikes are arguably just as violent when they leave the racetrack. And the big difference is you're actually, because you're sitting upright, you're in a much more of a tuck style. You've almost to a certain extent got a little bit less control than what you do on a top fuel bike, because on a top fuel bike you can really shift your weight around. On these bikes you're in that tuck seated position with a big square tyre on them, and they're not necessarily the most compliant bikes when you're asking them to move around. So obviously, guys, our thoughts are with Locky at the top end of the racetrack, and we are just waiting to hear from him. He is a very, very tough bloke, I will tell you that much. He's a champion boxer as well, just quietly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's a guy who is very, very fit. If you ever get to the racetrack early in the morning, quite often you'll see Locky doing laps. He'll be running laps of the racetrack. He's a very, very fit young man. So we will wait to hear some confirmation from the top end of the racetrack, guys. But for now, we'll just wait and send our best wishes down there to the top end, because that's really all we can do. If you are watching online, we appreciate your patience. We know there's been a couple of delays today, and we do apologise for that. But obviously, racers' welfare and well-being is the top of the priority list when it comes to this kind of thing. So what we might do is take a couple of ads and try and get a little bit of info and be able to update you shortly, guys. We'll be back with more after this.
Building a street car through to a race car? Be sure to think of Aeroflow Performance. The ever-increasing range that started with just hose, fittings and fuel system components has grown to include boosted turbochargers, bang shift shifters, X-Pro ignition and electrical accessories, Bosch motorsport products, fabrication parts, as well as driveline and engine components. With an exceptional distribution network and inventory, Aeroflow products are always within reach. With more to come in the future, be sure to keep it.
How far away is that storm? And another thing, how does an engine keep going out here?
Building a street car through to a race car? Be sure to think of Aeroflow Performance. The ever-increasing range that started with just hose, fittings and fuel system components has grown to include boosted turbochargers, bang shift shifters, X-Pro ignition and electrical accessories, Bosch motorsport products, fabrication parts, as well as driveline and engine components. With an exceptional distribution network and inventory, Aeroflow products are always within reach. With more to come in the future, be sure to keep it.
How far away is that storm? And another thing, how does an engine keep going out here?
Champs, just an update on Locky Island at the top end of the racetrack. The great news is that he is conscious and he is talking to the medics down there and being checked out. So Sydney Dragway, put your hands together. That is exactly what we wanted to hear, is that he is awake, he is talking to the medics down there. No idea what caused the accident at this point. It was a long way down the braking area for something like that to usually happen. A lot of the time it happens just after the finish line. But look, it is what it is. We're not going to speculate, but the main thing is that Locky is okay and he is talking to the people that he needs to down the top end of the racetrack. Obviously, we do have a little bit of a clean-up. Hopefully, it's not going to be too much. And then we'll be able to jump back into it. We've still got a couple more pairs left in this first qualifying session for Pro Stock Bike. Jason Lee and Ryan Limont will be up next. Can see them down in the water box. And just want to say as well, big hello to Ryan Limont for coming across from WA. We love having you over here in Sydney, and it's great to see yet another pro bike coming out of the woodwork. That is awesome to see. And Luke Crowley will be on a solo pass to round things out here in Q1 for PDRC Pro Bike. We'll be back with more very, very shortly.
Building a street car through to a race car? Be sure to think of Aeroflow Performance. The ever-increasing range that started with just hose, fittings and fuel system components has grown to include boosted turbochargers, bang shift shifters, X-Pro ignition and electrical accessories, Bosch motorsport products, fabrication parts, as well as driveline and engine components. With an exceptional distribution network and inventory, Aeroflow products are always within reach. With more to come in the future, be sure.
How far away is that storm? And another thing, how does an engine keep going? Out here.
Stop thinking and just go for it.
Building a street car through to a race car? Be sure to think of Aeroflow Performance. The ever-increasing engine components. With an exceptional distribution network and inventory, Aeroflow products are always within reach. With more to come in the future, be sure.
How far away is that storm? And another thing, how does an engine keep going? Out here.
I really enjoy my job. You get to work. I really enjoy my job. You get to work on big machines. It's a great career choice. Stop thinking and just go for it.
Building a street car through to a race car? Be sure to think of Aeroflow Performance. The ever-increasing that started with just hose, fittings and fuel system components has grown to include boosted turbochargers, bang shift shifters, X-Pro ignition and electrical accessories, Bosch motorsport products, fabrication parts, as well as driveline and engine components. With an exceptional distribution network and inventory, Aeroflow products are always within reach. With more to come in the future, be sure to keep an eye out at...
How far away is that storm? And another thing, how does an engine keep going? Out here.
Building a street car through to a race car? Be...
The Gulf Western on the way, at least in terms of the national championship. He's taking on Jason Lee. Jason Lee, very, very experienced racer, won the first round of the championship here in Sydney over the man who's lined up in the lane behind him, Luke Crowley. Jason Lee riding Trevor Birrell's motorcycle, had about a 20-year break. I'm not going to call it a retirement. We'll just call it a small hiatus.
Yeah,
How's
that's the word I'm looking for, yes.
And he's picked it up like he never left. He's just jumped straight back onto this thing, and he's winning trophies, got the very, very nice riding style, gets really tucked down in the motorcycle. Hogged a little bit off the start line. Ryan Limont on a nice pass, but look at it stretching its legs for Jason Lee at the top end of the racetrack, and a 7:39 will take him to the top spot so far. 7:39 at 178.
And a 7:84 with a 5 at 156 for Learmouth. So definitely a good side-by-side pass there, Rusty. Both bikes pretty even all the way down.
They were actually pretty close together. The 60-foot time was only 0.02 of a second separating them. But although he's number one, Jason Lee, nothing's ever safe in pro bike until Luke Crowley goes down the racetrack. Now, traditionally, he has been a guy who has struggled a little bit in qualifying. I don't think he'd mind me saying that. He has struggled a little bit in qualifying. But then come race day, he gets this thing sorted. Now, he is licensing a new rider on this bike, Vanessa Rodman.
Yeah, okay.
She is actually already fully licensed, went 7:21 on this bike on her first full licensing pass. So, yeah, I think she's going to be just fine. And I believe she'll be stepping onto Luke's older championship winning bike at the Winter Nationals. She is actually racing here this weekend in Extreme Bike. So
wow. Nice.
getting some runs under her belt. But that being said, Luke said, you know what, I've still got some unfinished business on this bike. There's still some things that I want to do on this bike. And he does also have another bike in his possession that he will potentially be stepping onto at the Bend later on this year at the Grand Finals for the PDRC. We'll touch on that maybe tomorrow. Luke Crowley on the line, just really bogged it down off the start line. Picked that up pretty nicely once he got through that first 60 foots, and he shuts it off, and an 8:04 is the result. 8:04 with a 1 at 133. So that does round things out. Jason Lee's your provisional number one qualifier, Locky Island in second, but unfortunately did take that tumble at the top end of the racetrack. Ryan Limont in third with a 7:84, followed by Luke Crowley and Tony Frost rounds out your 5-bike field so far. The bikes that we did not see come out, or Scott White was pushed back off the start line, and there was someone else, Paul Andrews, unfortunately, did not record a time. So with that, we're going to move into Top Sportsman now. I'm going to take a little break off the microphone. I'm going to hand over to the capable hands of JB, and I'll be back tomorrow with the PDRC and our professional categories here at the Gulf Western Oil Nitro Champs.
Thank you very much, Rusty. That is two of our top sportsman competitors going through their burnout procedures on the racetrack. In the Aeroflow lane, we have Josh Boscovich in the XA Coupe, the Fontana powered Falcon, running for Bosco Mobile Mechanical. And Wilding Motorsport Merch is taking on Anthony Wyatt in the Holden Calibra. Anthony already backed up to the water. Josh taking his time. Welcome to the microphone, John Summerarch. How are you this evening? Good, mate. Excellent.
Josh really doesn't mind purging that nitrous. To give it a nitrous purge while he was reversing
He did that time. Of course, this car recently into the 7 seconds. So
yeah, I think they've found their 7-second combo.
Yep. Seems it reeled off a number of 7-second passes at the last round of the Track Championship Series here. Taking on Anthony Wyatt, as I said, for Pine Mountain Performance. 582 cubes, big block Chevy in the Calibra. Only 427. Nitrous assisted in the Falcon. The Falcon with the Linko gearbox in, so it's got the clutch, and he pulls the lever for each gear. Wheels up, launch, moves around a little bit as it always does, and again at half track, close to the center line. It looks like Boscovich out of the throttle. Yeah, and Wyatt will take the win here. 7:68 with the 3, 1:77 through the finish line.
And it was was a nice 014 light for Tony.
Our next pair up will be
John Beckingham.
Yep.
Greg Fowler. Greg Fowler in a 780 cube Chev Beretta.
Yep. Big. There's 14.
Plenty there.
14 something litres of big block Chev under the bonnet now there. Just noticing there, John, the car of Fowler's didn't really do much of a burnout. It almost hooked up straight out of the water, so it didn't get a lot of smoke happening in the burnout. Beckingham, no issues for him in the JB Automotive Falcon Utility. Small block Ford power.
John sponsored by Precise Automatics from Queensland and JB Automotive, which is John Barbagallo from North Queensland.
Two pretty good workshops to have in your corner. If
Neil Maxwell owns Precise Automatics and has done autos forever.
Right, so both races into pre-stage there. That's that top pair of white lights. Beckingham into full stage. Fowler now in.
Oops, Fowler had a problem. 825 light for John. Still had to move around at 1,000 foot. Buttons it off for a 9.10.
It's got me a little bit on edge, that car, because it likes to move around at about half track. So
yeah. Not quite sure what happened to Greg's car.
Right, so I'm wondering if it was a continuation. At least both races will now at least have logged a time in their qualifying. I think for both there is definitely room for improvement.
Yes,
Fowler,
this is the
Fowler
first
with some
qualifying
issues.
session for top sportsmen, so they're just having a little look at the racetrack.
Our next pairing to face the starter will be Zach Konezovic in the Addicted Performance Ford Capri.
Up from Narre Warren in Victoria. There's a 540 cube big block Chev in at this Capri.
They're saying that it's got forced induction there, John. Do we know if it's nitrous or turbo?
Not sure, it's AA, so it's...
I can't see any nitrous sticker on the back window, so
Oh.
I'm guessing it might just be a turbocharger or something along those lines. Not many blown cars in Top Sportsman.
No.
However, in the Rocket Lane, we have Steve Fowler from Arcadia Vale in the Fowler Freight Management Pontiac GXP.
760 cube Chev.
Yes, the baby.
Yeah.
It's 20 cubes down
The
on
little one.
on Gregory's engine, but both cars just shut down.
The reds are on, so I guess we're going to have a look at the racetrack.
Yeah, there's a few of our track walkers in the Aeroflow lane. They're just looking near enough to where Beckingham's car moved around a little bit there. So I'm wondering if there was reports of something in turnaround, as part of the procedure. We try to check all the cars underneath as they roll around turnaround and roll their chutes up. But as I said, that car does have a little bit of a habit of wanting to move around, unfortunately, which does make it a little bit interesting for John at around the half-track mark. Yeah, but both these cars will be making 1,000+ horsepower.
Absolutely.
Without a shadow of a doubt. So certainly not a small amount of horsepower and any sort of fluid or debris on our racing surface is unwanted. So I'm sure our track crew will investigate what is on the surface, if anything, and take due diligence in correcting it. And we'll be giving the fire-up signal to both these races for their first qualifying attempt here this evening at Sydney Dragway. I can see a number of our other competitors for the category lined up at the back of the tunnel.
Extreme bikes over there in the lanes.
Yep, that we
The
know.
rest of top sportsmen.
We know that those extreme bikes live up to their name. Of course, only running a fairly small tyre, most of them extended swing arms, but nearly all...
No wheelie bars.
No wheelie bars. Nearly all of them running a turbocharged power plant of some form. We see bikes in that category into the high sixes at 215 odd mile an hour.
That would be hectic.
Yeah, would be pretty hectic. I think the challenge in some of them would be pulling them up as well, but having that extended swing arm allows the bike to leave the start line, and I'm sure that most of them using timing and boost control to soften the launch as much as they can without it bogging down.
Yep.
Just listening to see if I can hear any radio chatter about what is happening out there on the racing surface at the moment. Just a reminder to all of our viewers on the live streams, if you want to get to Sydney Dragway, just have a scan of that QR code that is on your screen. We'll take you to a website to allow you to purchase tickets, and we'll expedite your entry into the venue either tomorrow or Sunday, of course. And what we've seen so far today has only been a bit of a teaser of what we will, of course, see over the rest of the weekend, with both of our Nitro categories coming out tomorrow for some hits down the racetrack in both Nitro Funny Car and, of course, the Top Fuel Dragsters, plus all of our sportsman categories that we've already seen today, and some. We have a little bit of racing left this evening in the what we can see in the staging lanes. Unfortunately, the schedule a little bit delayed due to a couple of incidences on track, and also some wet stuff that we had earlier in the day. But you know, conditions out there at the moment, I think, seem okay, John.
Yeah, I've been up here for a while, so I don't know how cold it is down there. I know I had to get my jumper on.
Yeah, well, the evenings here in Sydney have got fairly cool pretty quickly.
Yeah, in the last week, definitely.
Yep. So it looks like they're bringing the spray ute out, and we'll just be giving both lanes a little bit of a spray with the spray ute. So we shouldn't be too long down with that, and hopefully that will allow the racing surface to have a little bit more grip underfoot for these races. Of course, the traction, a vital part of what we need and want here at Sydney Dragway.
Okay, we're back in the Top Sportsman. And Stewie White is back with us.
Yeah, big thank you to Stephen Bush. I had to make the power walk from 1,000 foot back up here into the studio. Well, what an interesting first day of racing so far.
Yes, there's been some incidents, hasn't there?
Yeah, it's a shame to see, but you know, that's racing.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, these things do happen. But Zach Nasevic out there now, the Addicted Performance Ford Capri, and running for Martini Oils as well. And Steve Fowler in the big Pontiac GXP. He's got the 760 cubed Chev on board, as the boys had said.
Yeah, Steve Bushy was pondering before this Capri, it's TSAA. We were wondering if it's turboed or supercharged, or you're not familiar with the car?
Well, there's your
nitrous
answer.
purge,
It's
yeah.
nitrous.
There you go. That answers that question.
Yeah, the big purge and nitrous there for Zach. Of course, nitrous quite a common power adder when you get into Top Sportsman.
Gotta love it. Horsepower in a bottle.
Very hard on the engine components though,
Nah,
compared to.
not really.
You don't think so?
I'll run nitrous forever. As long as you're not stupid with it.
Right, we're just waiting for Steve to have the wheelie bars set. Zach is ready to go. We thank everybody in the crowd who's still sticking around to watch the Aeroflow Sportsman Series. This is qualifying number 1 for Top Sportsman. Well, 0.21 on the tree there for Steve Fowler. Zach Nasevic, 1.26 in the 60 for the Capri, and a 687 at 202 miles per hour to an 826 at 162 for Zach. Steve Fowler, number 1 qualifier so far, and I'll tell you what, that is going to be hard to beat, Steve.
That will definitely be hard to
Sorry,
beat.
John.
Don't call me Steve.
Sorry, JB. So I was just talking about Steve. Sorry, JB. Well, I'll tell you what, it's great to see this gentleman back here in Sydney. Steve Horvat.
He's moved up to Queensland, hasn't he?
Yeah.
A few years ago now.
Yeah, the big 572 cube big block Chev Hold Monaro. taking on Lisa Sargent from Mount Rankin in New South Wales. The Sargent's roofing Chevy Camaro. 600 cubes of dart power on board. And also, the engine work all done by Grant's Performance, which is based up at Charmhaven. I've actually been into their workshop a couple of times, or once before, and
Grant's been around a long, long time.
oh yeah,
He was a very accomplished racer himself.
I'll tell you what, they've got a very good workshop up there at Charmhaven.
Okay.
Steve Horvath, the big fat Camaro, gets a little bit sideways in 60, 1.17. Look at Lisa Sargent, close to that centre line. But at 8.30 at 162 for Steve, Lisa with an 8.05 with an 8 at 163. Lisa Sargent goes into number 3 qualifier so far.
A nice 017 light from Steve as well.
All right, great to see Paul Partridge here this weekend for the 2025 Gulf Western Oil Nitro Champs. Running for BK Race Engines and Coating King. Actually caught up with Billy the other week here at Sydney Dragway.
Yep.
And had a bit of a chin wag with him. And in beside him, Chris Theo from Brahmana in Victoria, the Pro Race Engine 68 Chev Camaro with the 565 cube big block Chev underneath the bonnet.
Yeah, plenty.
They just go together like a marriage, don't they?
Absolutely.
Big block, Chevy Camaro.
Correct. Just like Pardo, big block Ford and Mustang.
I'd like to say a quick hello to Les Binkhurst, who's floating
going
around.
on?
Great to see
Is
Les
Les
here.
here?
Yeah, Les is here.
Okay, I
Got up
didn't
with him
realise he
down
was
in the
here.
staging lanes.
Okay.
Yeah, of course, one of our very accomplished commentators that we have here at Sydney Dragway. He's been
Good
around
man,
the drag
Les.
scene a long time.
Yep. Canberra boy. 012 light for Pardo and a 052 for Chris.
Yeah, not too much between them in the 60 foot.
792 for Pardo and 809 for Chris. Nice close. It's Pardo in 3rd and Chris in 5th.
Not heard of them before.
Yeah, Sunset from America. Sponsored by Spry Civil, Burgess Paint and Panel, Burson's Automotive, Valvoline, Flat Out Freight and Patio Coffee. So he's got plenty of sponsors.
Certainly does. And Neo Morocco in the Martello Automotive Pontiac Firebird.
Up from Junction Village in Victoria.
This very reminds me of a car that used to run or does run in Supergas. Joe Contensor.
Yeah, it looks similar to
Similar,
Joe's car.
doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Big Chevy, look at that. Oh, Ennio, .002 on the tree.
031 for David.
Wow.
740 for David Foster and an 813 for Ennio.
David Foster goes straight into number 2 qualifier with a 740 and Ennio in the 10. I'll tell you what, this is a car that if you haven't seen it before, ladies and gentlemen, get your phones out. Ray Fairfield, sponsored by Coating King and Brad's Race Engines. The Ford EL Falcon with a 400 cube small block Ford in it, running nitrous. And in beside him, Vlado Turek from St. Peters in South Australia, the Vlado Turek Proprietary Limited Pontiac GTO. It's got 584 cubes of Chev power on board. Vlado has been campaigning this car for a fair while. This is designated TSAA. And Ray Fairfield, well, he changes between categories in this car. It has got a couple of turbos on it.
Nitrous there.
And nitrous, yeah. So he, at our New South Wales state champ rounds, he can run the car in boosted outlaws.
Yep.
That's a category that we run. But today is running in top sportsman.
Race sponsored by Brad's Race Engines. 400 cube small block Ford.
What I like about it, it's still got that real street look about it, JB.
Yeah, it's true.
It's easily identifiable
Yep.
by a lot of kids and a lot of families. as is the next car that will be coming up, which I'm pretty sure is one of your favourites as well.
Yeah. Waiting on Ray to stage. Lado goes red with an 013 and 2.848 light for Ray. And he's had a problem halfway down the track. Lado runs it through for a 733 at 187 mile an hour. And Ray hasn't made the finish line yet. Oh, there we go, 21.2.
There was a little flash of flame that came out the left-hand side of it, John, but I don't know if that was just out of the exhaust, which is normal for that car.
Yep.
Very rarely do I see it run at night.
Yeah, obviously had a problem. But made the first turnout, so they're golden. Fred O'Connor in the Aeroflow lane. Jenkins Performance Engines Chevy Camaro with a 636 cube engine. And Peter Hamilton up from Hume in the ACT in this Holden Commodore wagon with a 366 cube Chev.
How can you not like this car of Pete Hamilton's?
Yeah, it usually does really good wheel stands.
I was just about to say, John, it should have a capital A for attitude on the rear end on his back window. But Brett O'Connor, he's been doing really well with this car.
Has been in the sixes, I believe.
Yeah. Well, 636 cubes of Coupe Black on board.
And a dose of giggle gas.
Look at that giggle gas come out.
Yeah. Both cars nitrous. Pete's got his top light on, waiting for Brett. One light for Pete and 017 for Brett. Impressive both sides. Brett runs it through for a 7144 at 197 mile an hour, and Pete with an 839 at 160 mile an hour.
Yeah, Brett O'Connor
in the number 2 spot.
Yeah, goes to number 2, but he was out on an angle and really had to steer the car to get it back straight. But I'll tell you what, that was a good run. All right, heading into performance bike. Now, this is a little bit different. This is Group 2 racing, so it's index racing. So a lot of these bikes will be going off their national records. And we've got Cheryl Beddoes
from Ellis Lane in New South Wales. She's sponsored by Joe Curry Motorcycle Trans. And it's a V-Rod Destroyer.
Yeah, Joe Curry down there sitting behind Cheryl. Miss V-Rod, as she's affectionately called. And in beside her, Vanessa Rodham from East Mackay in Queensland, the Mining and Energy Unions sponsors Suzuki Hayabusa.
Big road trip, that one.
Absolutely. Also sponsored by Pacers Paints. Great to see the ladies out in comp bike. Well, an 016 red for Vanessa, but it is qualifying. And Cheryl running on through 9.09 with a 1 and 140 to a 10.09 there for Vanessa on board the Suzuki Hayabusa. That's a great race. Harley versus Suzuki, as we've got Nathan Nielsen coming out now from East Mackay on the Pipeline Assets Australia. Suzuki Hayabusa, 1,340 cubes with a turbo on it, JB. How good does that sound?
That is awesome. Running in AACB.
Ah, now that wasn't Joe behind her, because Joseph
Joe's on the bike.
He's on the bike.
And he's in it in V comp bike on another Harley Destroyer.
Mr. Cool here in Sydney. He's going on the solo.